Hello everyone. Thanks for joining us here today. This is a webinar brought to you by Useberry. Today, we will explore a topic that's really important to UX professionals, reducing biases with our newly launched feature, Randomization. I'm Harry, Senior UX Researcher here at Useberry, and I will be your guide for today. Before we start, let's take a closer look into today's agenda. There will be an introduction about randomization, then we will explain why randomization is important and how the randomization interface is set up within Useberry. We will provide some qualitative examples and some comparison studies examples. Then we'll follow up with a Q&A session. A poll has already appeared on your screens. Are you familiar with the concept of randomization in UX research? Yes or no? We'll be eager to find out. So most of you replied that you are familiar with the concept of randomization, while some of you're not. Don't worry. Even if you are familiar or not, this session will cover the basics and a little bit of some advanced randomization. So what is randomization? Randomization is a technique used to control for potential biases and confounding variables that might influence the result of a study or an experiment. Randomization involves randomly assigning participants to different experimental conditions, product, variations, or the random presentation of tasks, questions, set of questions, or response options. Randomization is a good practice in both qualitative and quantitative research. It helps prevent patterns, biases, fatigue, or learning effects that might affect user behavior or perception and distort your data. Thus, it makes your results more reliable, valid, and more generalizable, while at the same time, it provides a more realistic user experience to participants during the study. Before we go on to some examples, let's see the groups and randomized block that Useberry offers. I will go to Useberry and create a new project. I'll create a new project from scratch, not using any templates. And I will go ahead and add a group and randomized block. The group and randomized block allows you to create stages, sets, apply randomization, and select how many items within a set you would like to show to participants. A group and randomized block can have multiple stages, and each stage can contain multiple sets. To create a new stage, you must have more than one set in your current stage. And to create a new stage, you just click the Add Stage button here. A set allows you to group blocks together or sets together. To create a new set, just click the Add Set option. In stage 1, you can create sets of blocks, while in any other stage than stage 1, you can create sets of the sets created in the previous stage. Randomization allows you to show participants blocks or sets in a randomized order, so participants do not see the same stimuli in the same order. For blocks in stage 1, you can randomize the blocks that are within a set, while for any other stage, you can randomize the sets created in the previous stage. The Assign option, which appears right next to randomization, is only visible and usable when the randomization option has been enabled. In stage 1, you can select how many blocks within a set you would like participants to see, while in any other stage, you can select how many sets of the previous stage participants will see. Let me reset this interface by deleting the sets and the stages, and let's continue with a couple of examples. Now, imagine that you would like to test one prototype with two core tasks that your customers do when visiting your product. You would like participants to see all tasks in a randomized order, which means some participants will start from task 1 and go to task 2, while some others will start from task 2 and go to task 1. You would like to do that to mitigate the learning effect. So let's go back to Useberry and start setting this up. We already have a group and randomize block, and within that block we have the first stage with one set. In this set, we will add two tasks, all right? So let's go ahead and add two single tasks for this example and just rename these tasks. So the first task will be task 1, while the second task will be task 2. Task 2. Right. Now, if we enable the randomized blocks option, the order in which task 1 and task 2 appear to participants will be randomized. If you would like, you could also change the assign option from all to 1. This is particularly useful when you have a lot of tasks, for example, 8 tasks, and you would like participants to see some of these tasks in order to reduce the participants' fatigue or the participants' learning effect. Now, let's continue with another example. Imagine that you would like again to test one prototype with two tasks. Each task is followed by two questions, but you will also like to randomize the order in which tasks and their corresponding questions appear to participants. Let's get back to Useberry. I will remove the randomization feature from here. And what we would like to do is essentially add two follow-up questions after each task. Let's go ahead and do this. So I'm adding two questions after task 1. Let me go ahead and rename these questions to task 1, question 1, and the second one, task 1, question 2. Let's add the follow-up questions for task 2. So let's add two more questions here and go ahead and rename the questions. So that will be task 2, question 1. In the second question for task 2 will be task 2, question 2. If we leave the structure as is and run the test, all participants will first see task 1, then task 1, question 1, task 1, question 2, and then they will see task 2 followed by task 2, question 1, and task 2, question 2. What we would like to do is randomize the order in which participants see the tasks and their corresponding questions. To achieve this, we need to place each of the tasks with its corresponding questions into a different set. So let's create a new set, and let's go ahead and rename these sets. The first set will be task 1 plus questions, and the second set will contain task 2 and the questions for task 2. Now let's go and drag and drop the questions for task 2 into this new set, and also the task 2 into this new set. Now in stage 2, let's go ahead and add actually the second stage. So in stage 2, you can see that there is a new set created, and this set contains the sets created in the previous stage, namely task 1 and questions and task 2 and questions. Enable the randomize sets option to randomize the order in which the sets created in stage 1 appear to participants. If you would like participants to see randomly one task out of the two tasks alongside these tasks' corresponding questions, then you should just change the assign option from all to one. Right. Before continuing to the next example, I'll just reset this by deleting this stage, and we will use this structure for the next example. Right, so let's build this up a bit. You would like participants to see both tasks with each task, so two tasks with each task followed by two questions, and these questions are randomized between them to reduce the question order bias. But you would also like the tasks to be shown randomly to participants. So let's go back to Useberry and see how we can achieve this scenario. To achieve that scenario, we should add the two questions for each task into separate sets. So let's create two more sets in stage 1. And let's go ahead and rename these sets to what they will contain. Set 1 will contain the questions, the task 1, while the second set will contain the task 1 questions. The third set will contain task 2, while the fourth set will contain the task 2 questions. Right, let's drag and drop the task 2 questions into the set named task 2 questions. We'll do the same for task 2. We'll just drag and drop it into the set that we named task 2. And for the task 1 questions, we'll do exactly the same, drag and drop them into the relevant set. All right. Now, as we would like to see these questions randomized, so we would like participants, in fact, to see these questions randomized, we should enable the randomization option within the sets that contain the questions. Now we should add a new stage, and in this new stage, we can see that the sets created in the previous stage, which is stage 1, appears. So we have task 1 questions, task 2, and task 2 questions. Let's see what we want. We should add a new set into stage 2. The first set will contain the task 1 plus the questions for task 1, while the second set will contain task 2 plus the questions for task 2. Now let's drag and drop the task 2 questions and the task 2 into our second set. And finally, we should add a third stage. And in that third stage, a new set appears, which contains task 1 plus questions and task 2 plus questions. Now, we can enable the randomize sets option here to randomize the order in which the sets created in the previous stage will appear to participants. So what will happen is that some participants will start from task 1 plus questions and will continue to the group that is called task 2 and questions, while some other participants will start by seeing task 2 and questions first and then going to task 1 and questions. If you would like participants to see only one task alongside that task's corresponding questions, just change the assign option from all to, in our case, 1. Before we move on to the next example, there will be a poll for you to answer, and we'll be happy to see what you reply. I'll just wait for a couple of seconds to grab your responses. So have you dealt with biases in UX research before? Yes or no? Okay, so 81% of you have dealt with biases in UX research before, while 19% have not. This webinar hopefully will help both of you, the experienced one and the more novice ones. The next example is a little bit more advanced. So it's a within and between subject studies example. So I would like you to imagine that you have two design variations for a specific customer journey, and you would like to test each of the two variations with two tasks. So that's variation one with two tasks, and that's variation two with two tasks. You would like all participants to see both tasks and both variations, which makes it a within subject study. And you would like to randomize the order in which the variations appear to participants to minimize the learning effect and counteract possible order effects. To achieve this, let's first create a new version within Useberry. I'll again create something from scratch, and let's add a group and randomize block. Then within stage one of the group and randomize block, we will create two sets. Set one will contain the tasks for design A, while set 1.2 will be renamed to design B and will contain the tasks for design B. Let's go ahead and add the tasks and rename these tasks. So that will be design A task 1, and then we have design A task 2. We'll do the same for the design B. We will add two tasks. And let's just go ahead and rename this to design B task 1. And I'll just duplicate this and rename it to design B task 2. Right. As we would like participants to see the two design variations in a randomized order, we should add a new stage. In this new stage, a new set appears that contains the sets created in the previous stage, namely design A and design B. Let's rename this set to experimental design. And enable the randomize sets option to randomize the order in which the sets created in stage one appear to participants. Now, imagine that in addition to what we've done so far, you would like to also randomize the order in which each version's tasks are served to participants. So in stage one, for each set, we will enable the randomize blocks option. Such a way, the tasks for design A will be delivered randomly to participant, and the same will happen for the tasks in the design B. If you would like participants to see only one out of the two tasks for each of these sets, you just go ahead and change the assign option from all to one. Now, as I mentioned, this is a within subject study. Participants will see both of the variations in a randomized order. But if you would like participants to see one variation out of the two, which makes this study a between subject study, then you just change the assign option from all to one. In a between subject study, randomly assigning participants to conditions helps you ensure that the assignment does not affect your study results, which means that it helps you increasing the internal validity of the study. So that was it all from me. The stage is on you. Let's share the insights and the questions you might have. You can use the chat and type your questions or raise your digital hand and ask me anything about Useberry's randomization feature. All right, so we have some incoming questions. First question is, can I use it, meaning the randomization, for other research methods, like applying randomization in a tree test, for example? Yes. With Useberry's randomization feature, you can actually apply randomization to any of the methods that Useberry offers, including tree tasks, first click tests, 5-second tests, you name it. All the methods that Useberry offers support randomization via the group and randomize option. I have another question. Could you share an advanced application or study setup that requires randomization? I would be happy to do so, but we have limited time in today's webinar. But feel free to reach out to Useberry via the customer support or via contact@useberry.com. And I'll be happy to book a demo with you and showcase more advanced examples or help you build your study with randomization. Does this impact the number of people that you test with? So that's another question. For example, if you normally test with 10 participants, should you double this when randomizing? If you want to get an equal split, yes. And in general, I would say that the more you randomize stuff, the more participants you should have if you would like participants to see all the unique variations of a randomization. The next question is, will there be templates using randomization? Yes, it's in a roadmap to update our current templates with templates regarding randomization. But if you create your own randomization study, you can save it as a template and your team can reuse it at any time. But yes, templates are coming soon. Let's wait a couple of minutes. All right, there we go with another question. I wonder why in the first example, 2 questions block were used. Both question 1 and 2 could have been asked in one block only, correct? Would the randomization work inside one block? Let me read this one more time. So I wonder why in the first example, so let's go back to the first example here. It's not the first example, I'm sorry. So let me go here. I do have the first example created. So that is the first example. Both questions 1 and 2 could have been added on only one block, correct? So if you are referring to questions, it should be the second step of the first example. So it should be this one. And I have added this in one block here. But if I want to randomize the questions, so let me take this from the beginning. What you see here, participants will see task 1 followed by task 1 question 1 and task 1 question 2. If you would like the 2 questions to randomly appear to participants, so participants will see task 1, but some of them will see question 1 followed by question 2, while some others will see question 2 followed by question 1, then you have to create a new set and add these 2 questions in that new set, which will look something like that. So we have our first task followed by the 2 questions, and these 2 questions are randomly appearing to participants. This is why we separated these questions from that set on the latter step of the first example. I hope this answered your question. If not, please do follow up. So there is another question here. Hi, I would like to know in the last example, if we select only one design to be shown to the users, so let's get to the last example, which is this one. If you select only one design to be shown to participants, then I guess they will be split between our users. There will be a split. How will the results data look like? What kind of output we get? The output that you get is exactly the same that you get at the moment with Useberry. So we'll have quantitative metrics from time on task to success rates. We will have our recordings if you have enabled them. We'll have heat maps, user flows. So hopefully this has answered your question. If not, again, please do follow up so I can explain more. I am not seeing any other questions coming in, but let's wait for a couple of minutes. Right? There are no more questions. Again, I'll be happy to get in a call with you and showcase specific examples if you would like. Thank you for joining us today. Right, there is one more question. Apologies for that. I'll just go back. The benefits of randomization and why it's useful at practice. It reduces biases, confounding variables, learning effects. Those are some of the pros. Fatigue, learnability, which can distort your data. So if participants see the same interface, so you have two tasks and all participants see the first task before they see the second task, they will learn your interface. And this is the learning effect. So they have already been exposed to your design once. So you are trying to mitigate that with the randomization where some participants start from task one and they go to task two, while some others start from task two and go to task one. Now, for example, imagine that you were not applying randomization and everyone was seeing task one and then task two. The task two might have a better performance just because participants have seen your design in task one. Or that goes for a tree testing as well. In the tree testing, you might have 2, 3, or 4 and more tasks. So participants will learn your tree structure, your navigation structure from task one, and there will be a learning effect carried over to the next tasks, which mean that participants could perform better in the latter tasks. In reality, you don't know which of the tasks you have asked participants to conduct, which one of these they will do both. So it's also more realistic, and it also reduces effects and biases in that way. So your data are stronger, more generalizable, and yeah, the experience is more realistic. I hope this answered your question. But again, if not, feel free to expand and in the chat, and I could pinpoint more things. So there is another question. Will there be anything depending on translation? So will my users see that it was created in English? Useberry, I mean, Useberry offers language localization. It doesn't matter if you use randomization or not. When you are creating a study, you can go to the version settings here and you can create a new language. So you can go to manage languages, create a new language, and you can change everything that Useberry offers, everything that participants see, every single word. So you can do this for translation reasons, or you can do this just because you don't like the default options that we offer. For example, you can change continue or go back or back to the task to anything that you would like. So yeah, hopefully this has answered your question. Useberry offer custom language localization, which means that you can translate everything that participants see, and the feature is available as we speak, and it has been for a couple of months now. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at contact@useberry.com or contact our customer support or book a meeting or a demo directly from the Useberry landing page with us. Thank you so much for joining us today. I look forward with catching up with all of you later on.